You're welcome to my channel. I am Joy. Today's video I'm going to be showing you how to draft a pattern for a 6 pieces or 8 pieces knee length gown without joining at the waist. How to draft the pattern if you are making a 6 pieces gown or if you want to make an 8 pieces gown. So let's see how it's done. So I'm going to be using this pattern paper for my illustration. This will be for the front piece and this side will be for the back piece. This will be the zipper. I have 13.5 inches for the front piece, and I have 1.5 inches for the zipper allowance. So here is the zipper allowance. So here is our zipper allowance. So here is our zipper allowance. So first of all, we are going to draft a basic bodice pattern. These are the measurements I'm going to be working with. I'm working with the shoulder of 16 inches. Just mark a neckline of 4 inches and a shoulder also of 4 inches, and come down by 1 inch for the shoulder slant. My armhole depth is 8 inches. So I'll just mark out all the horizontal measurements. For this, we need shoulder to bust point, then shoulder to waist. Shoulder to bust point is 11.5. Shoulder to waist is 15.5. Sorry, 18. I will not be making use of underbust. Shoulder to underbust is 15.5, but I don't need it. I'll make use of the bust point, the waist, and then from there the hip is 9 inches from the waist, and then I have the length. I'm using 40 inches as the length of the gown, which the paper is 40 inches long. So I'll just repeat the measurement this way so that I can have a straight line. 11.5, 18. Just connect it to straight line. Hope you can see it. I'm just redrawing the lines so it can be more visible. That's the shoulder measurement. Then the bust is 40. So let's label what we have. There's a chest line. This is the bust line. This is the waist. This is the hip. And of course the dress length. This is our dress length. The neck that we want, I want a Queen Anne neckline. Mark 7. So I'll come back to this neckline. Let's mark out the armhole. Get the midpoint and go in by 1/2 inch. And then I'm going to use the French curve. Because I'm drafting both the front and the back piece together, I'm going to mark out the back armhole first. This is the back armhole. And then for the front armhole, I'll come in by 1/2 inch. And connect from here to here. So that is the front armhole. Let me just use this to re-highlight it. So that is the front armhole. And then that is the back. So we're going to mark the bust span measurement. My bust span measurement is 8 inches divided by 2 is 4 inches. So I'll mark it on the bust, on the waist, on the hip, all the way down to the hem. Just start with a roller. On the waist, I'm going to take a dart of 1 inches on both sides. And then on the bust, I'll come down by 1 inch. On the waist for the front pattern, I'll come up by 2 inches. So I'm going to mark that in a triangular form. So I'm going to be including the under bust line so that the gown can have a fit like a bustier. So this is under bust. So I'm going to repeat the 1 inch dart on the under bust. So I mark it straight to the waistline. So ignore this. We are going to be doing that on the under bust. Like this. So we are going to be cutting on this part. And then you're going to be a princess dart. So from the midpoint, I'm going to use my French curve to connect to this point. Like so. And then I'm going to mark 1/2 inch on both sides. So I'll connect towards the chest line. Let me connect it towards the bust line. So this is the one we are following. So you ignore this. And then in order for when we are joining it back for it to be equal, so let's measure what we have here. Here we have 5 3/4, and here we have 4 1/2. See, there's a difference of almost 1 inch. So we are going to extend this by 1 inch, so we don't have any shortage. Just extend it out, and then we create a new armhole. Okay, so we are no longer going to cut here for the front armhole. We're now going to use this. So you ignore this line. This is the line we are following, this one, and then this. Okay, so let's come to the neckline. We want a Queen Anne neckline. So on this neckline, I will come in by 1 inch. Right now the neckline is 4 inches, so I can come in by 1 inch or 1 1/2. I can make it 2.5. So let me make it 2.5. 2.5 will be here. And then the length of our neckline is 7 inches. We are going to be sharing it because the Queen Anne neckline has a shape. So the first part of it will be 4.5, while the other part of it will be 2.5. So from this, we'll get the midpoint and get the midpoint here, and just mark it. Or you come in by, you go in by 1 inch, okay, depending on the shape that you want to achieve. So let's see what this looks like. Then from here we connect with the curve to the middle. So this is our front. So this is our front neckline. For the back neckline, we'll be making use of 1.5. 1.5. Okay. We'll be making use of the regular neckline. So let me mark it here. The front and the back neckline, they are different, okay, but we'll maintain the same wideness so that we'll be able to join front and back together. So we are going to make use of this wideness for the back. That is 2.5. So you can, it depends on what you want. You can decide to make your own 3 inches. It's still okay. If it's 3 inches, that means it will be here, and then from here. So whichever one you prefer. If you prefer this 2, if you prefer this 2.5, or you prefer 3 inches. So it depends on what you want. If you prefer 3 inches, then you just mark it here. And then the same neckline is what we use at the back. So we are through with the neckline. So let's just impute our measurements now. Our bust circumference is 40 inches. So you divide your bust circumference, what your own, what it is, divide it by 4 and mark it. And then remember that this, because of the dart that we are taking here, we are extending this armhole length. We are extending it. This was the initial armhole length, so we are extending it by 1 inch. So that is where the armhole length will now stop. This is a new armhole length. Okay, this is a new armhole length. Then you can go ahead and add your seam allowance, but I'll leave out the seam allowance for now. The underbust measurement, your underbust divided by 4, you mark it. And then the dart that you have taken, I've taken a 2 inches dart. You replace the dart. You do same for the waistline. The waist circumference divided by 4. Waist circumference divided by 4. And then you replace the dart. and then you go ahead and impute the hip circumference divided by 4. Then for the lower part, which is going to be around the knee, you can reduce the hip by 1.5. So I have 11.5 here. I'll go ahead and mark 10 inches here. So let's just connect all the lines that we have so far. To the waist, then the waist to the hip. Now for a 6, so for the back pattern, I've gone ahead to rule out some lines. This is a chest line, the bust, the waist, the hip, and then so I just marked the 1 inch slant. Then from there the armhole depth, and then I marked shoulder to bust point, shoulder to waist, shoulder to hip, and of course the length of the dress. But for a 6 pieces and 8 pieces pattern, our flare is going to start from the waistline. Okay, it's going to start from the waistline. So the same neckline that you use for the front, if you intend to use 3 inches here, make sure the back neckline is also 3 inches so that the shoulders can be the same. Okay, the back shoulders, they have to be the same. Okay, so whatever neckline you are using, use the same neckline. So let me just mark 3 inches here as a neckline. So from here is where the shoulder is going to start from. So here is the shoulder. The shoulder has to be the same. And then you mark the midpoint of the armhole depth. Then mark the back armhole. And use your French curve to do that. From here, take the curve. Meanwhile, before you do that, get your bust circumference divided by 4 and mark it to get the armhole length. And then I've gone ahead to mark out the dart line the same way we mark the front dart line, the bust span measurement divided by 2. So that is what I've marked here. Now for the waist dart, I've just marked the regular waist dart, 1/2 inch on both sides, 1/2 inch on both sides. And then for the hip, I'll come up by 1 inch. Then on this bust line, I'll go up by 1 inch before the chest line. Okay, so with the ruler, just mark it out like this. are going to be cutting here out. If you want the back to also have the princess line, you can go ahead and just mark it like this. If you want the back to have the princess line, then you mark it like this. You can use a straight ruler. Just mark it straight like this. So if you want yours to have a princess line, mark it straight like this. If not, if you want it to start from the shoulder, then you come to this shoulder line. Don't forget this one is not there. So you get the midpoint of this shoulder. Right now we have 5 inches, so the midpoint, that will be 2.5. And then you just connect to the chest line. I'll use broken lines for this. So if you want, so this height will come like this. So if you want it to have princess line, you can use this. Okay, so I think I'll be making use of this one. And then just go ahead and impute the bust circumference divided by 4 on fabric. That is what I'm going to be adding my allowances. Then the waist circumference divided by 4. Replace these darts that I have taken. Come to the hip line. Hip circumference divided by 4. Then for the hem part, you subtract 1.5 from the hip. So let's connect all that. And of course, make sure that there are no sharp edges, so you blend this out. Blend it out. So on fabric, you go ahead and add your allowances to the side. Okay, you go ahead and add allowances to the side. So if you were going to make a fitted knee length dress, then this is your back pattern. Okay, if you're going to make a knee length fitted dress, this is the back pattern. For the dart, you can just simply close the dart. When you want to sew, you pinch it like this. Then you sew like this, like this. But if you want to cut it out, then you cut it out through this line. Okay, so I'm going to be cutting out the pattern now, so that I can explain how you are going to cut 6 pieces gown and how you are going to cut 8 pieces gown. So let me cut out the back pattern. So let's label it. This is center back, then this is the side back. And then for the neckline, 1.5 inch in depth. So I'll connect it with this 3 inches. So from here, so this is the back neckline. So this, here's the zipper allowance for the back. So here's our back piece. So let's cut out the front piece to see what it looks like, and then I'll explain the different so for the front, I'm going to be using 3 inches. So I'm not using this, I'm using this other one. I'm just cross-checking my measurements. You have to cross-check before you cut, because after cutting you cannot correct anything again. So let me cut out this middle part. And of course, here is center front, and here is side front. So let me cut out the neckline. And don't forget to add allowances to your neckline, to the shoulder rather, when you are cutting on fabric. So assuming you wanted to make a fitted dress, okay, this will be the front pattern. So when you want to cut your fabric, you place this on fold. This will be on fold, the center front will be on fold, and then the side will also be on fold. So after cutting, you have one piece of this and 2 pieces of this for the front pattern. And then for the back pattern, you place your fabric on fold, you cut it out, then you also cut open the zipper line. So that is if you are making a straight fitted gown. Now for a 6 pieces gown, if you are making a 6 pieces gown, assuming this is the fabric that you are going to use, you will put your fabric on fold down like, you know, you are going to have 3 in front and 3 at the back. So you just place like this. This is the middle that is folded. You place your pattern on it like this. Then you mark out what you want, the wideness that you want. So So like this. You just use the pin to hold it in place. So from this waistline, after determining the wideness that you want, from the waistline, you now extend it out. You extend it out like this, not this. So you are following this. So when you want to cut out the center front, you cut here. We cut here like this to the waist, and then you trace here out. Okay, remember to add allowance to the shoulder. Then you trace out the neckline. So this will be the center of the 6 pieces gown. Okay, so when you are through with the center, assuming you are through with the center, to cut the side, you will fold your fabric such that you will have space. Your fabric is going to be folded into 2, and then you fold it such that you will have space on this side, and you also have space on this side. Okay, that is how you are going to fold the fabric. So the same wideness I used before, you maintain it 3.5. This is 3.5. You also mark 3.5 this way, and then from the waist, this is the waist. So from this waist, you extend it to the hem. From this waist, you also extend it to the hem like this. I don't have enough paper. I would have cut everything out and show you. Okay, then you also extend here to this side. So when you want to cut, you cut. When you are cutting, you cut from here like this. You trace out all here. You trace out this part, this part, this part. So you now have 2. So you take one, put on this side, and the middle you have already cut before. So that one will be 3 in front. Okay, that will be for the 6 pieces. Then if you now want to cut the back piece, you also do the same thing. You get a fabric, you fold it into 2, you place the center back. So for the center back, you do it like this. So you get your fabric like this, then you place your center back on it. So the extension will only be by the side. This is the waist. The extension will only be by the side. Okay, remember that you are going to cut here open. So you also mark the same 3.5 inches. You mark the 3.5 inches, and then you connect it from the waist to the 3.5 inch. So the center back, you will cut from here like this. You cut from here, then you cut here, then you open the center. That is for the center back. Then when you are through, you get another fabric. This time around, you are going to be cutting it like the way you cut the center, the side front. The way you cut the side front. This is the center, the side back. You place the paper. you place your pattern at the middle of the fabric, making sure that you have 3.5 inches allowance here and 3.5 inches allowance here. Okay, so let's assume that this is our, so this is the waist. So you mark out the extension that you want here, you also mark out the extension you want here, and then you connect from this waistline. Just draw a straight line to the hem like this. Place your ruler like this and then draw a straight line. You also do same here. Place your ruler on the waist like this, and then you draw a straight line. And don't forget the side, you need to add the same allowance. Add the same allowance to the side. Okay, and also before you cut here, also add 1/2 inch seam allowance. This side add 1/2 inch seam allowance, then this side you can add 1.5 inch seam allowance, and then you cut it out. The same thing with the front piece. So that is how to cut a 6 pieces gown, a 6 pieces flare gown. Now for 8 pieces, if you are going to cut an 8 pieces gown, it's still the same. So let me use this side so that you will not be confused. For 8 pieces gown, remember that this back piece is on fold. Okay, by the time you cut it, you are going to have 4 pieces for the back. After cutting, we have 4 pieces, 1 2 3 4, and then for the front, this center front, you will cut it open so that you will also have 4 pieces. By the time you cut the center front open, you have 1 2, then you know that the other one will be on this side, and that will also complete the 4. Now draft out the pattern. You will now do it as if you are doing the way we cut the side. You place the pattern on your fabric, making sure that you have a space to cut out a wideness this way and a wideness this way. So you determine the wideness that you want by this side, if you want 3 inches or if you want 4 inches. So assuming you want 4 inches on both sides, so this depends on the amount of fabric that you have. So you place it like this. So assuming you want to have 4 inches on both sides, this side 4 inches, you also mark this side 4 inches. And then what you do is that from the waist, you just connect to the hem. You place a ruler like this, and then you rule. You also repeat same for this side. You rule. So at the end of the day, your front panel, the center front, will be 12 inches. Okay, so you're going to have 12 inches. So 12 inches, 12 inches, and then you now cut this side following your pattern. Remember to add allowance, same allowance at the shoulder, add same allowance at the shoulder, add same allowance here that you're going to use to join to the side, add same allowance, 1/2 inch seam allowance, 1/2 inch seam allowance. So you will now cut it out. This side will be looking like a triangle. So that's why you're going to cut the center front. So remember that the center front, you are going to cut the center front is going to be like this, half. Okay, so it means that you are going to cut two sets. That is why the paper is on fold. Your fabric will be on fold. So after cutting, it means you've already cut the two pieces, one for the left and one for the right. So when you are through with that, you get another fabric, and then the same thing, you place it such that you have 4 inches here, and then that you also have 4 inches here. Okay, so the same thing you did before. You take a ruler, then you connect from here to here. You also connect from here. You also connect from here to here like this. Okay, by the time I make another video whereby I'm going to be using fabric, then you will understand this explanation more. By then we are going to cut it out on fabric. Okay, for this we are just using pattern. So it means that the wideness of the side, look at it, the side is going to be 14 inches wide. 14 inches wide. So the side 14 inches, the two middle 12 inches, 12 inches, and 14. So this is for the front pattern. So you can actually use this to calculate the amount of fabric that you want. So after drafting out your patterns like this, you calculate everything. Then you now see if how many yards of fabric you are going to have at the end of the day. For this now, this is 28 plus 24. I have 52. Okay, so if you remove 36 from 52, 36 is a yard. So you need like 1.5 yards to cut only the front part to the front pattern. You need 1.5 yards to cut only the front pattern. Take the center like this, place it in the middle. Place it such that you have 4 inches this way and you have 4 inches this way. And you also have 4 inches this way. Okay, and then the same way we did before, you now connect from the waistline. This is the waist. From the waist like this, you connect like a triangle. You connect it like this. From this one, you also connect like this. So this is the one you are going to cut out. You cut this side like a triangle, and then you follow the shape of your pattern this way and cut it out. So at the end of the day, the wideness of the back piece of the center back, the wideness will be, let's say, 14 inches. Remember that I still get to have same allowance, so let's say 15 inches for the center, 15 inches. So let's see what the back will be. So the side back, let me turn the paper. You get your fabric, you fold it into 2 so that you just cut it at once, making sure that you have 4 inches. You have 4 inches by the side here, and you also have 4 inches on this side. And then, like what we have been doing since, you connect that to the waistline. You connect it to the waistline like this. Connect to the waistline. connect to the waistline. So the side now, let's see the wideness that it will be. See, it's 14. So we have 14 inches, 14 inches. The middle is 15 because of the zipper. The side is 14, 14. So if you are going to add that together, this is 30, this is 28, that is 58. Subtract 36 from 58. So you see that to cut this fabric out, you need at least three yards of fabric to be able to make this gown. So that is how you determine how to cut it out. So in our next class, we'll be making one of the gown, either a 6 pieces or 8 pieces, and we'll be cutting it on fabric. So don't miss the next class. So just keep this. If you have a pattern like this, you keep it. You see that you can use it for a straight gown, a fitted gown. You can use it for a 6 pieces. You can use it for 8 pieces. So that is the importance of drafting pattern. So we have come to the end of this class. I hope you find these tutorials helpful. Now you know how to cut a fitted gown, a knee length fitted gown. Then you also know how to cut a 6 pieces gown and 8 pieces gown. So in my next class, we'll be making one of them into a dress. So don't miss that class. If you have not yet subscribed to this channel, this is the right time for you to subscribe so that you don't miss that class. That class, I'll be cutting it on fabric, and then we are going to be sewing the dress. Okay, until next time when I come your way again, I remain Gigi. Don't forget to share this video, like this video, and of course comment on the video. Bye for now.